Greetings, everyone, and happy Thursday. Welcome to Make It Make Sense with Monique Pressley, where our pledge to you is that we are dialing down the noise and the rhetoric and the bickering and bringing you the facts, bringing you the truth, bringing you data-driven, fact-driven commentary so that you can move forward in your life with the best information possible. And today is another one of those days where we are meeting head on a critical topic. Have you ever noticed that in the United States of America in particular, that when certain people go missing, there ends up being manhunt that seems to stop everything in its tracks and enlist every known officer? I don't have to really name many names, but whether it's from John Benet Ramsey to Gabby Petito, we all recognize those cases, don't we? What is it exactly that's different, though, when one of us is missing? We have a guest today that's going to talk about that very thing, but before we do, I want you to watch this.
This little girl had just gotten off the metro with her mom. We were passing out flyers. She just stopped. She was staring. I asked, do you know her? She looks up at me and she says, she looks just like me. Every time I look at this picture, it makes me emotional.
There's so many missing people of color in the U.S. African Americans remain missing 4 times longer than white Americans.
That number is alarming.
We hear from families all the time. The police is turning us away. The media wouldn't respond.
Looking for a missing daughter.
And it drove me and my sister-in-law, Natalie, to want to do something about it to help these other families. Because if not us, who?
It's our job to bring them home.
Thank you for calling Black and Missing Foundation.
The police was like, how you know she just ain't leave?
The detective kept saying she ran away. And I'm like, she didn't run away.
It was like a punch in the face.
When a black person is in distress, missing, it's not a big deal to law enforcement because they don't think we have much to lose.
This one always gets me just remembering when she was a little girl. You blame yourself because it's never done.
My sister went missing in 2009. On all the major news stations, nobody would talk to me.
When IFO coined the term missing white woman syndrome.
If you don't meet those criteria, blonde hair, blue eyes, your stories are not newsworthy.
Here's my niece. She's missing. Her story is just as compelling.
We have nothing for our missing people except black folks spit and grit.
That's why I'm on 10 right now.
And this is not one and done. We will be back.
We don't want families to ever give up on hope.
1 year, 5, 10, 20. We have seen miracles happen.
These men and women that are going missing look like my siblings or look like my parents and my grandparents. They matter. Our community matters.
If you have not already seen Black and Missing, I invite you to do so. But for today, one of the women, Shiro in my book, who is responsible for that series and for the work of the foundation that the series is about, we need to welcome now Dereka Wilson.
Hello.
Hi there. If you have not already seen Black and Missing, I invite you to do so. But for today, one of the women, Shiro in my book, who is responsible for that series and for the work of the foundation that the series is about, we need to welcome now Dereka Wilson. When we're missing, people care less, but I don't want to jump ahead. I want to let you guide for today. And if you could just tell me how you came to this work and what your foundation is doing currently.
Absolutely. So my sister-in-law, Natalie, and I, we started the organization nearly 14 years ago. The inspiration behind the organization was a young lady by the name of Tamika Houston. She went missing from my hometown of Spartanburg, South Carolina. And about a year later, Natalie Holloway went missing. And of course, me saying her name alone, everyone recognizes her name. Her aunt, Rebecca, this is Tamika's aunt, she worked in media relations, and she reached out to those same news outlets, and they would not cover her niece's story. And just seeing this beautiful young lady, Tamika Houston, who's missing from my hometown, I look at Tamika as my sister, as my daughter, as my girlfriend, and I'm like, her life matters. Why isn't she getting any coverage? So Natalie and I decided to do some research. And at the time when we started the organization, 30% of missing persons in the United States were persons of color, mostly Black men. Now that number has since increased to 40%. So there is a real issue. So that is the inspiration behind the organization.
And this issue, I know that you said the number is high, but I also heard you say in the promo that the percentage is higher per capita in the Black community than it is in any other. Is that the case? And if so, what are the numbers on that?
Oh, absolutely. Nearly 300,000 people in the United States that are missing are persons of color. And what's so sad about it is that there is not enough resources dedicated in looking for us. You know, when our children are going missing, oftentimes they're labeled as runaways. Runaways are not receiving the Amber Alert. There really isn't a sense of urgency to find them, and they're not dedicating the resources. And when it comes to a missing male or female in the Black and brown community, their disappearance is associated with some sort of criminal activity that really dehumanize and deminimize the fact that this is someone's son, daughter, mother, father, brother, sister. They're valuable members of our community, and they matter.
Right. And especially, I want to talk about both of those things separately, but first, where minors are concerned, the thing that has always been repugnant and offensive to me is not just that they say, well, how do you know she didn't run away? It's the fact that somehow if a minor has decided with their not yet fully developed brain to run away, that we're not looking for them, as if it's up to them to make their own choices. They really do treat young Black girls like we're grown women. You know, I have a 15, almost 16-year-old daughter. She is a child. She's not a grown woman.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
What is it that we can do to enforce the laws there? Because they have the same obligation, whether it is criminal or whether it is a missing person due to abscondence.
Well, I think first and foremost, everyone in the community needs to rally around. This is an issue. And I would say that even with the Metropolitan Police Department in Washington, D.C., they're one of our partners. And we love the fact that they did away with the classification runaway. Everyone is missing. Okay. And that is what we need holistically across this country. They are children. And we need to dedicate the resources to find them. They can't make these decisions on their own. And the perception from society, because if you're looking at a flyer and one says missing, the other one says runaway, the messaging isn't created equal. And the perception from the community is that whatever happens to that child, they brought it on themselves because they ran away. It's so much bigger than that, because as a society, if a child is running away, we have a responsibility to understand and protect them. What are they running from, and who are they running to? Because we know 1 in every 4 children that run away, they're solicited for sex. We know that 40% of human trafficking victims are Black girls. We know from a study by the Urban Institute that these traffickers target our Black girls and women because they know that they're going to get less time if they come after our community versus our counterparts. So there's so many factors.
Right. I mean, and they definitely are being wooed, being wooed in person, but also something I know you know a lot about, online.
Oh,
Being pulled in.
Absolutely. And what we have seen during the pandemic, first and foremost, missing persons of color is a pandemic, which is why Natalie and I started this organization nearly 14 years ago. But we have seen an increase with the global pandemic, with COVID. These children were forced to learn online, and parents, they haven't been able to properly supervise their children. Okay,
many have to go to work.
Exactly. So these predators have been utilizing, the internet as a playground to lure these children.
Yeah, absolutely. And so then I don't want to leave it behind, because then they'll say, I don't care about the Black men, and I absolutely do. You said that when Black men are missing, then it's viewed as criminal activity. What can be done in that area in order to reinforce the principle that these are human beings? And if there's no basis, no evidence to support that there was criminal activity afoot, that assumption is flawed.
Well, first and foremost, we need for there to be more diversity in the newsroom, because the decision makers who determine what is going to air don't typically look like us. We need more diversity with the police forces, because those high-ranking officials typically don't look like us. And I can even speak for experience. I served on the police force in Virginia, and I was the first and only Black female police officer in the history of the agency. So we do need that diversity, and we need for police to understand that they are public servants. They work for the community. We don't work for them. In every case, regardless if they're Black, white, Asian, Hispanic, their lives matter, because there's nothing worse than not knowing if your loved one is hungry, if they're sick, if they're cold, if they're being mistreated, if they're going to walk through the front door again. Missing persons is not a Black issue. It's not a white issue. It is an American issue. It is a human issue. And we all have a responsibility. Law enforcement, the community, and the media. And for the community out there, we need you all to be our digital milk carton. You see our flyers out there, don't just like them, share them. One share can end this nightmare for this family that we're serving.
We've been talking, it seems like almost every show, whether we're talking about police misconduct, whether we're talking about issues that relate to women, it's always in some way or another circle back to voting. And one of the things that you said made me think of it again, because where law enforcement is concerned, even if there are members of the law enforcement that are people of color, there's a big difference between that being a line officer and being in administration, as police chief, deputy police chief, being in the mayor's office with the power to appoint to those positions. So I'm just thinking that this is another instance where people showing up at their council meetings and voting in people into office who care would matter.
Yeah, I think people need to really take the power of their voice seriously. And I think we shouldn't just wait until voting day to show up at the polls. We need to research these individuals that are representing our community to make sure that their agenda aligns with our agenda. Because we need to drive change. If we're not going and doing the necessary research, we're going to get what we get.
Yeah. So what are the first steps? I just have a couple more questions because I know you have a heart out on for me, and we appreciate your time. Somebody is in your home or known to you and do not come home that night, and normally they would. What is the first thing that you should do?
The first thing that you should do is file a missing persons report. And especially if it's a child under the age of 18, do not allow law enforcement to tell you to wait. There is no waiting period when there is a child.
No
Also,
waiting period.
there is no waiting. There's no waiting period when there's children. Also, understanding your respected laws in your city and state, because not every city and state requires you to wait 24 hours if it is an adult. So make sure you understand that. We encourage you to reach out to our organization, file that report with us as well. We understand that in our community, law enforcement don't take our cases seriously. So we see a lot of families take matters into their own hands by creating their own flyers. We encourage you not to put your personal information on those flyers, because when you are at your weakest and most vulnerable time with dealing with a missing loved one, what we have seen is that families put their phone numbers out there, and now they're receiving those scam and ransom calls. So please don't do that. Canvass your area, like where your loved one was last seen. Reach out to...
What should they put instead, though? So I'm making a flyer on my own. I haven't reached Black and Missing Foundation yet. I've filed my police report, but I'm trying to do something. So what do I use? I tell them to report to the police and list the police number, or?
Yes, you can list the police number. If you haven't reached out to us yet, list the police number, list an email address. You can get a Google number. Just don't put your personal information out there. That will help kind of screen those calls. But we certainly encourage you to reach out to us, because one thing that we offer to families that reach out to us is a flyer. And our flyer contains our phone number as well as the police number. And if we receive any tips, because we understand that there is a lack of trust when it comes to police and the minority community, we get tips before law enforcement do in many of our cases. And we share that information not only with just law enforcement, but with the families, because we're very transparent, and we want the families to also make sure that law enforcement is following up on this information.
Okay, so with your foundation, the Black and Missing Foundation, one of the things that you will do for them is flyers in coordination with law enforcement. What other services do you offer?
We actually print flyers for families to send to them for distribution. We help with reunification, private investigation services, and also, sadly, a lot of our cases, unfortunately, the missing person hasn't been found alive, and we've helped families with the burial assistance as well. So we are just being that resource, helping them, meeting them where they are, and giving them what they need. And these families become our family as well. So we want them to get the necessary resources. And if it's something that they need and we don't have, we're going to make sure they get it, because we're going to put them in contact with our partners.
And is this nationwide?
Our organization is a national organization, and anyone can visit our organization by going to BAMFI.org. That's BAMFI.org. And from our website, you will be able to access all of our social media platforms. The low-hanging fruits, we just encourage everyone to join our community so you can see what's happening. Also, take a look on our website to see who's missing in your community. Download those flyers, share those flyers, make them go viral. We need our community to be that digital milk carton, and just help assist with that media coverage. We understand that not every case is going to make the 5 and 10 o'clock news cycle. Not every case is going to bubble up to national mainstream media, but we have the power of resources with our social media platform, and it has a great reach. So we really need everyone to get involved.
Okay, and so last question, which I'm hoping will be an action item for all of us. What does preventative action look like? Whether it's parents trying to prevent the wooing online for their children, or whether it's young men and women who need to make changes in their activities in order to not end up in this position.
Well, first and foremost, we need parents to stop being their children's friend and be their parent. Be that nosy parent. These predators are very sophisticated. They are grooming them online. Pay attention to those behavioral changes. And, again, with the pandemic, we've seen where our victims of human trafficking, our victims of sexual assault, those kids that are depressed, those kids are victims of domestic violence. they are turning to these strangers online looking for love in all the wrong places. And this person on the other end, or the persons on the other end, they're telling them exactly what they want to hear. And it's that entire grooming process. So have those uncomfortable conversations with your children. And again, don't be their friend, be their parent. Because one question that we always ask parents: how can a stranger enter your home without coming through your front door or your windows? And it's through those devices.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for everything that you've shared with us today. But beyond today, for all of the work that you're doing, I want to ask everyone who's on here, please support the Black and Missing Foundation and take all of the steps that Dereka has given us to do in our own communities. I so very much appreciate your time and hope that you will come back with more information for us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. So guys, once again, we're looking at something that is of critical importance in our own communities, and we are asking you to take part in saving our children, saving our grandparents, saving our brothers and sisters, our parents, because each one of us can take action and has a responsibility for our own protection. So I can't express to you how utterly maddening it is when I see, and she's right, being missing is not a Black issue or a white issue. So why are we treating it like one in our country? You know, and you guys, they actually have a name for it. It's the missing white woman syndrome in this country, in the United States, where when it is a certain person of a certain sex and a certain race, there is, for whatever reason, a frenzy. People go crazy, not in a way that they shouldn't. I'm not saying that, in a way that they should, for all. For everyone who's vulnerable, for everyone who's missing. And she is exactly right about the things that need to happen in the media in order for every case to get the attention that it deserves. And frankly, if they were doing every case getting the attention that it deserves, no case would be able to get the frenzied attention of a single one case, because there are hundreds upon thousands, as she said. So very, very important. Please support their work. She said, BAMFI, Black and Missing Foundation, please, Foundation Inc., BAMFI.org. So please go there, donate if you can, share the information, and share this show with your friends, with those you love, with anyone who would need this information. If you learned something today, please tweet about it, tag me, hashtag Make It Make Sense, and share when I post it. I'm going to post it later on today. Please share in your stories so that then people can share it with others. Thank you so much for joining today. We appreciate it. We've got another great show tomorrow. It's going to be the week in review. As you know, we're watching the start of a full-on invasion and war in Ukraine, and we offer prayer to all members of the Ukrainian community and those who are here in the United States, who are our brothers and sisters here in America, who have family members there, those who are in armed services and are affected by this, and just for our globe. I would ask that you all lift that in prayer, that intercession work, and that the interventions of the allies of the Ukrainian people would be successful, and pray for peace. Pray for peace. And we will bring you information about that and more tomorrow. If you would like to support this show and the things that we're offering here, you can support this work at the link in my bio through my Cash App, which is $MoPress, MoPress, or you can do it through our business PayPal, which is businesspaypal.com / Monique Pressley Enterprises, or MPE, or you can join Patreon and you can support us monthly, and you'll get special information, news bulletins, behind the scenes interviews through Patreon. So I would ask you to just do what you can, because we are bringing you the absolute best we possibly can and have plans to do more and more with each passing day. Thank you so much. Enjoy your Wednesday. I'll see you tomorrow at noon Eastern.